Hey, welcome back to Defense Diaries. I'm your host, Bob Mata, and we are going to be covering the sentencing hearing of Adam Fravel, who was convicted of first degree murder for in relation to the death of Madeline Kingsbury, a 26-year-old mother of two, beautiful human being, senselessly unalived. Another, and just the never ending stream of these cases that seem to just they always just blow my mind. I just don't understand why these types of cases keep happening over and over and over. And it's mothers, always mothers with kids, and it's unbelievable. So the trial was not streamed, but they are going to be streaming the sentencing, which is happening today, imminently. I do have this lined up. The countdown over here says in 42 minutes, 15 seconds at 1:45 p.m. Central Time. This case took place up in Minnesota, so it's a Midwestern case. So Dizzy put a lot of hard work in. She's getting back into the fold, which we are all happy about over here at DD. And she put together a lot of stuff for us to kind of go through. I have a feeling that a lot of us probably have heard something about this case, but we don't know nearly as much as we would otherwise if the case was, being streamed and they were showing pretrial hearings and things of that nature. So I think that we start. I'm going to go. Hi, Diz. Welcome back. Welcome back. Are you here to watch all the fruits of your labor? Because that's what we're about to get into, girl. Did a great job, Dizzy. Thank you so much for putting this together. It's going to be great. All right, so let's start. The first thing that makes the most sense is when yes, Mandy coming through. Love it. Well done. Well done. All right, so let's do uh I want to do this first. This makes the most sense. So this is the day that Madeline goes missing. All right. And this is the press conference. And I'm going to do them at 1.25 just because I want to try to get as much in before the actual sentencing hearing takes place so that we can have a better understanding of just how big of a piece of shit this guy is, which I think is important. So I've got it boosted because I know when I watched it the first time, the sister, when she comes up, she's pretty low speaking. So I'll turn my mic down a little bit and let's get into this case.
Good morning. I'm Winona Police Chief Tom Williams. I would like to thank all of you for taking the time to spread the word about the disappearance of Maddie Kingsbury. We are very hopeful that we will find her. Maddie was last seen the morning of Friday, March 31st. Maddie and the father of their children dropped the children off at daycare shortly after 8 a.m. Maddie did not show up for work, which is very unlike her, and we are worried for her safety. During the course of our investigation, we know that Maddie returned to her residence on Kerry Drive in Winona around 8:15 a.m. on March 31st. The vehicle that Maddie normally drives is a 2014 dark blue Chrysler Town & Country minivan, depicted to my right. The father of Maddie's children has spoken to law enforcement and told us that he left the residence in Maddie's van around 10 a.m. and upon returning later in the day, Maddie was not home. We believe a van similar to Maddie's van was driven on County Road 12 and Highway 43 in Winona County, and then southbound on Highway 43 through the eastern part of Fillmore County. Later, a van similar to Maddie's traveled back toward Winona on Highway 43. All of this occurred between approximately 10 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. We believe the van remained parked in the driveway of Maddie's residence from 1:30 p.m. on. Nothing to date has indicated that Maddie left the residence on foot or in another vehicle. The public has asked if we are currently looking for the van, and we are not. Investigators have searched the van and the residence. Inside the residence, investigators located Maddie's phone, the jacket she had been wearing earlier in the morning, along with her wallet and ID. Maddie's family and friends tried to contact Maddie throughout the day on March 31st without success. It was unlike her not to respond. Based on all of this, we believe Maddie's disappearance is involuntary, suspicious, and we are all concerned for her safety. Law enforcement began searching areas nearby Maddie's residence and along Highway 43 in both Winona and Fillmore counties. Our search efforts have been ongoing. We've been assisted by other law enforcement agencies and volunteers. Our search efforts have included people on foot, in vehicles, as well as by water and air. We are doing everything we can to bring Maddie home. We have spoken with many of her family members and friends and are actively following any developing information. No stone is being left unturned, and we are using every tool at our disposal to find her. Many of you have asked how you can help, and we really appreciate that. Here's what we are asking the public to do. If you live in or around Winona and Fillmore counties, especially along and around the routes previously mentioned, we're asking you to walk your property, check out buildings, and have a good look around for any signs that someone passed that way or for signs of a disturbance. Please check any cameras that you have on your property, including game cams, doorbell cams, and security cams. Look for someone passing by. We also ask that you check the video for a dark blue minivan driving by or stopping. Regardless of whether you see something or not, if you have a camera along any of the mentioned routes, please save any video from March 31st to April 1st and contact law enforcement. If you know anything or saw something suspicious, please call the Winona Police Department or Crime Stoppers. Your information might be the final piece that brings Maddie home. We know this is an extremely difficult time for Maddie's family and friends who want nothing more than to have her home. I'd like to welcome Maddie's sister, Megan, up to say a few words.
I'm not a public speaker, so appreciate your patience with me. Thank you all for coming. My family and I really appreciate all the attention and the help. I'm Madeline Kingsbury, I'm Maddie's older sister. Speaking on behalf of my entire family, those of us in town, out of town, out of state, including my older brother, Stephen, wasn't able to make it here at the moment. He's overseas on deployment. He's currently en route from Romania to be here. As it's been said, we all know, and I know everyone wants details about the investigation and what's been discovered. I'm not talking about that right now. To be honest, I don't know everything either. I'm here to talk about Madeline and her children. Madeline is many things. She's a mother, sister, daughter, best friend, granddaughter, niece, it's a long list. She's a young mother to 5-year-old Eliana, 2-year-old Noah. Ellie is spunky and goofy. She loves to be crafty and creative. She's inherited her mother's kindness and curiosity about the world. Little Noah has turned into a chatterbox. Can't tell what he says half the time. He loves to dance. He loves rock and roll, and he was blessed with the redheaded gene from my grandfather to miss everyone else. So he's got dimples and eyes that sparkle. And Madeline is a hardworking and dedicated mother, as well as a grad student at the U of M, and works for the Mayo Clinic. Family is everything to her. She's grown into an impressive and beautiful young woman. This community has really rallied around us, and so many wonderful people have traveled from all over the state and beyond to come help find my sister, and we're beyond grateful. Law enforcement has been extremely hardworking, and we'll never be able to thank everyone enough for what they're doing for Madeline. And we will remain loud about this and continue to advocate for Madeline any way, shape, or form. We're offering a $50,000 reward for any information leading to her whereabouts. So please help us find Madeline. The children need their mother. We need our daughter, our sister, our aunt, and our best friend back. Yeah, we just want to find her.
This is cranked, and I'm sure I'm super loud right now because I forgot to turn down my mic. This is as loud as I can get her. That's why I warned you guys. She's not really speaking into the mic, so that's as good as this gets. Just crank up your volume. I'll try not. Are you hearing nothing? Did you guys hear the cop? You guys heard the cop, right? I hope so. Let me know, because if you're not hearing any volume, a little bit, yeah. I don't know. We'll struggle bust through this. Let me see if I can get captions at least.
As you can obviously see, this is extremely difficult for Madeline's family. Anybody who knows any information that could help us find her, we do again ask you to contact the Winona Police Department or Crime Stoppers Minnesota, which is 1-800-222-TIPS. There's also a form online at the Crime Stoppers Minnesota website where you can submit information anonymously if you prefer to do it that way. So again, anybody who has information who can help us bring her home, please tell us what you know. We do have time now for a few questions, but again, we are limited as to what we can say with the investigation, so I'll open it up this time.
The van that was seen driving west, that was definitely Maddie's van, or it was a van that looked like Maddie's van?
The van matched the description.
Okay. And do we have any clues as to who was driving the van?
Not at this time. I should say that's not information we can share at this time.
Is there a criminal investigation associated?
We are examining all possibilities as to what could have happened to Maddie, including hopefully getting her back safely, or also investigating possible foul play.
Are there any suspects in the video?
We are keeping all avenues open at this time, but there's not a suspect or a specific person of interest. Do we have any other questions?
Are her kids safe?
I'm sorry?
Are her kids safe?
Yes, the children are safe.
Any other questions?
Can you just repeat the area that you want people to look, check the property?
Make sure that I give the same directions that I did earlier. Would be County Road 12 and Highway 43 in Winona County, and southbound on Highway 43 through the eastern part of Fillmore County.
Have you been receiving a lot of video at this point?
The majority of the video that we have been located has been found by law enforcement officers who have actually gone out canvassing. That's why we are specifically asking for the public's assistance with that to notify us. And again, I can't reiterate enough. If you have a camera, let law enforcement know, please.
Is there anything on that video that law enforcement collected that shows the van or any indication of suspicion or foul play?
We do have a van similar on some video clips, but again, the presence of or absence of a vehicle can also assist us in the investigation. So again, that's why we are asking for the public, if you have a camera, please save the video and notify law enforcement.
Since they're just verifying, there is no specific suspect at this time, correct?
Again, our options are that we are looking at this as a missing person, and we are also investigating it as the potential for foul play based on the totality of the circumstances.
And is there a threat to the general public?
Again, this is an open investigation. From what we've seen so far, there does not appear to be a threat to the public.
Can you rule out that Maddie was the one driving the van?
I'd have to say the investigation is open and active on that standpoint.
And you did say the father of her children drove the van at some point that morning, right?
It's open and active at this time.
Everyone more? Can you just reiterate why it would be that it's very unlikely that Maddie would have disappeared on her own?
Again, based on the investigation, we know that the children were dropped off at the daycare and that the van returned home. Based on that, the investigation is still open and ongoing as to what happened on return home.
That's all the time for. Thank you everyone for being here today. And again, please, the public, if you have video, or if you know any information, please do submit that.
See, I always think it's interesting when they reach a conclusion or they make a statement, they being law enforcement, that they don't think that there's anything that the public needs to be worried about, like that early on in an investigation. That's like kind of a code word for like we like the significant other. You know, I mean, if they thought that she was randomly picked off by some kind of creep other than the creep who lived with her, you know, I don't think that they'd be so quick to say that. You know, I mean, victimology, that's how it works. You always start with the people closest to the victim. That's just how law enforcement does it, which makes the most sense because typically it is usually more often than not, a victim is killed by somebody that they know. Usually it's somebody that they know well. So, all right, the next thing we're going to look at is the next presser. All right, so I want to make sure I got the right one up here. All right, so this is going to be the next presser we're going to watch. Same two cops, and this is a couple days later. Okay. I think the sound's a little bit better on this one. It looks to be a smaller room. So this is as the search progresses.
Okay, great. Well, good afternoon.
I take it
everyone.
back.
Thanks so much for being here today. I'm Bonnie Bowman. I'm a public information officer for the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. The BCA is assisting the Winona Police Department in investigating the disappearance of Madeline Kingsbury. Today, you'll hear from Winona Police Chief Tom Williams and Fillmore County Sheriff John DeGeorge. We will have time for some questions at the end of the news conference, but as always, I need to remind you, this is a very active investigation, and as such, we are limited with what information we can share today. So with that said, I'd like to bring up the chief.
Thank you all for being here today. I'm Winona Police Chief Tom Williams. Today's large volunteer search happened because we heard from people in Winona, our surrounding neighbors, and across the state of Minnesota that they wanted to help. We are so thankful for the outpouring of support for Maddie and her family. We're having volunteers meet at 2 locations, and from there, fan out to search multiple areas. This is tough terrain, and we are grateful to the hundreds of volunteers who are taking their personal time to assist with the search. As to the investigation, I can only say that it remains very active. Our department and our law enforcement partners are working relentlessly to find Maddie and determine the circumstances surrounding her disappearance. We continue to ask people living in Fillmore, Houston, and Winona counties, walk your property if you haven't done so already. Look for signs of anything suspicious, a disturbance, or anything out of place. We are continuing to ask people in these areas to check their cameras and please save the video. And if you have any information that can lead us to Maddie or the circumstances surrounding her disappearance, please call Crime Stoppers Minnesota at 1-800-222-TIPS. Again, Crime Stoppers Minnesota at 1-800-222-TIPS, or the Winona Police Department at 507-457-6288. We remain very hopeful that we will bring Maddie back home to her family. I'll now ask Sheriff John DeGeorge from Fillmore County to step up.
Whoa, close up.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John DeGeorge. I'm the sheriff in Fillmore County. Thank you all for coming here today and helping us get the word out. We've been assisting the Winona Police Department since early on in this investigation. We've committed every available resource of the Fillmore County Sheriff's Office to finding Maddie. We've worked around the clock with Winona PD and the BCA to follow up on leads and to search any possible areas to help find Maddie. Assistance and support from our community in Fillmore County has been incredible. It's been overwhelming at times. We're utilizing that today with a large-scale search in Fillmore County, similar to what's going on in Winona. Our search involves hundreds of volunteers and professional team leaders from multiple different organizations. As the chief indicated, it's incredibly important for people in Fillmore County to search your properties, walk your acreage, check your outbuildings, check your vehicles, walk trails, check your cameras, surveillance cameras, doorbell cameras, your trail cameras, for any indications of anything suspicious or for any sign of a dark colored Chrysler Town and Country van that may have traveled through the area. You know your properties better than we do. If we search your property, if you give us permission, if we bring a search team, we don't know what's out of place like you do. Please check your properties for anything. We have a team of investigators ready to respond to any calls. Call us at 507-765-3874 and report anything to us that needs to be checked, and we will respond immediately. As a sheriff's office and as a community, Fillmore County is going to continue to work tirelessly with every resource around the clock to help find Maddie. Thank you.
And on behalf of the BCA, I would like to thank the people of Winona, the surrounding counties, and all across the state of Minnesota who have volunteered. We've had messages on Facebook. They've come into our messenger. We've had calls. It has been just incredible. And as an agency, it makes us even more proud to serve the state of Minnesota. So thank you to everybody who has pitched in. Anything that you can do, if you have information, again, call that Crime Stoppers number or the other numbers that you've heard today. And for now, we are ready to take some questions.
How did you narrow down which two areas that you wanted to search today? And yeah.
So in terms of the areas that we decided to search, it was really, I wouldn't say that it was narrowed down. It was given a distance that we felt was achieved to be traveled in a period of time. Again, John DeGeorge in Fillmore County has some knowledge of that area, obviously, and then Winona County. We actually are looking for a larger scale area than what we had initially looked at based on the number of individuals that came out and volunteered to help today.
Is that the direction that the van traveled that you talked about earlier this week?
It's open and active. I'm sorry, I can't answer that one.
Are you able closer to finding a suspect or person of interest?
Again, it's open and active. The leads that are coming in is unbelievable. We are actually getting hundreds of them. We have a lot of information that we're trying to process right now to help do that. So it continues to be open and active.
Do you have an idea of how many volunteers came out today, this morning, to help?
I think our emergency operations director, Ben Klinger, stated that we had 400 here at Winona, and Sheriff DeGeorge, did we have a little over 300 in Rushford.
How many agencies were involved in the coordination today?
I will have to defer to Ben. How many emergency management directors did you have?
We had the entire Southeast Region Emergency Management here. Many of the counties are represented. Minnesota Task Force 1 is here helping coordinate the search. And then numerous volunteer search and rescue fire departments, volunteer police reserves, police departments. We'll work on getting a release out once we go through all our sign-in sheets and stuff to recognize and thank everybody. I'm sure in this. So.
You may have touched on this, but as far as the terrain goes, are there any challenges with walking this? Is it pretty ideal with the weather and everything right now?
Of course, in southeastern Minnesota, as you know, we have a lot of bluff country and an awful lot of valleys, and some of those valleys are extremely steep and very difficult to walk up and down. So that's difficult. They're also somewhat difficult from aircraft capabilities and what they can actually fly over and their abilities to see down into these deep crevices. The weather, again, for those that are searching, it's probably good. The sun is out, it's dry conditions, it's not super hot and it's not super cold. So I think that the volunteers that are searching are probably pretty thankful for the weather that we've got.
Can you expand at all on Maddie's partner's whereabouts during those few hours and if and how he's maybe cooperating?
I'm sorry, I can't comment on that.
Can you clarify though, on Monday, I know that it was, you walked through the timeline when the van was seen. And I thought I heard you say that he had left her home with the van around 10. And there was this window of time between 10 and 1:30 where the vehicle was seen driving around. Can you clarify that timeline? Do you know whether he got out of the van at this point or whether he was driving or?
Again, I'll leave it at the statement that I had left on Wednesday. It's an open and active investigation, and anything that I stated on Wednesday is the information that we knew at that time that we felt comfortable releasing.
And you did say that he had been driving around 10, correct, on Wednesday?
That's what I said on Wednesday, then yes.
Has he been involved in the search at all?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Do you have a message for any suspect or person of interest?
Again, we don't have a suspect or a person of interest. What we are looking for is anybody with any knowledge to please come forward and either contact the tip line or the Winona Police Department.
We've got time for one more question.
Any change in areas that you want people to look?
As I mentioned a little bit earlier, we've expanded our search just because of the fact that we have so many volunteers and we have the ability to cover more territory. So I think on Wednesday, I did not include Houston counties, but we've added that obviously because they adjoin Winona County as well as Fillmore County.
That's all we have time for. Thank you, guys.
Your mileage are you trying to cover? So do you have a gauge that you can give us just for how far the search is?
Thank
We-
you.
It's the 3 counties that we had mentioned earlier, and obviously it's a lot of rural acreage, and that's part of the challenge. I do want to just share with our media partners here, we will not be able to do daily updates about this case. As you can see, it's incredibly active. We have a lot of people working this. We don't want to have to take their time by doing daily updates. When we have something new, we will absolutely share it with all of you. I think most of you have my contact information. If you don't, please stay back. I can share that with you. I am a PIO for the BCA, but because Winona Police doesn't have a PIO, I'm just helping them out with this. So please feel free to contact me, but please do not expect daily updates, okay? I'm not, I think they're still looking ahead. I know there is a Facebook page that has.
All right. Okay. So this next thing that we're going to listen to is the Winona Police talked to Adam Fravel on the day that Maddie went missing. Okay. So this is a body worn cam. It's pretty interesting. So let's give it a listen. Let's see if I crank this up too.
Aware of what's all going on. Some people. Okay. So Adam, I'm sure you're aware of what's all going on. Some people called about Madeline a little concerned, and we're just trying to get an idea of where she might be.
Yes.
When's the last time you heard from her or anything like that?
Yeah, so this morning when I last heard from her, so that's why personally I wasn't very concerned yet.
What time about was that?
Probably around 10.
10 a.m.
I left our house around 10 to bring some stuff down to my parents. And then when I came back home, I noticed that my car was still there. She was going to take my car to work today, and my car was still there. And she wasn't there. That's the last I saw from her. And then I tried texting her, tried calling her, and I haven't heard anything since.
And you had the van today, correct?
Yep.
And
Yep. I was hauling stuff down to my parents.
gotcha. And your car was still there, and you now have your car, correct?
Correct.
So does she usually ride with anybody to work, or is there anybody she could be with right now?
She doesn't usually ride with anybody to work, but she has before. She has a couple coworkers in the Winona, so that's what I figured she did. But I don't know.
And I think it was
I
your.
took 2 things of melatonin, so I apologize if I sound groggy.
No, you're all right. But was she supposed to pick up the children today?
Yes, usually. So we usually do drop-offs and pickups together. And this morning we both did the drop-off, and I couldn't get any response from her since before 10 or whatever. And I tried calling her. We usually pick up the kids around 4:15. And I tried calling her a bunch of times, I think 3:30 and like 3:45 and 4. And I didn't get any response, so I just picked up the kids myself.
Okay. You know anybody in town she might be with? Any clubs or organizations she's affiliated with?
Not clubs or anything.
Does she do it like a weekly thing, like a girls' night out or anything like that, usually?
No, nothing like that.
Um,
She could be at, the first thing I would think would be if she was at our friend the Coca's. But I've talked to them already tonight, and they said they haven't talked to her. They haven't heard from her.
Gotcha. Um, Anywhere else in town you think she might be?
At this time of night, no. During the day, she constantly goes to like coffee shops like Blue Grounds and Blue Heron and stuff like that. But not at this time of night. It's definitely odd for her right now.
Does she ever go to the bars at all?
No, we're not drinkers at all.
And she was supposed to leave for the cities tomorrow. That's correct?
Yep. So last weekend we made plans for this weekend. I was gonna bring our son Noah down here to my parents, and she was gonna bring Ellie up to the cities to her sisters. And when I haven't got a response from her all day, I just took both the kids down here to my parents.
Gotcha.
Okay. This next clip we're going to watch is.
What's up, everybody, and welcome into another episode here. We are taking a deep.
What's up, Pete? All right. So this next thing we'll watch is early April of 2023. They still have not located Maddie at this point. And he comes in for another chat. And remember that what we just heard was the night of. So, and that was very end of March. So now, and I'm keeping an eye, y'all. Sensing it's got a clock ticking down. We've got 11:32. Dizzy had given me NPR News is where we're going to watch it. So they've got a court sketch up and a clock ticking. So I'll keep an eye on that. All right, so we're going to check this out. Let's see what he has to say for himself here. Okay.
Adam, I'll ask again, do you know where Maddie is? Did you have anything to do with her disappearance? Okay. You're infatuated with the Gabby Petito story, your own words.
Yeah, it was, yeah, when it was when like the manhunt and stuff was going on.
All right. This sound is brutal. I'm probably super, super loud. So do what you can with the captions here.
My biggest fear right now is that this is
No, I get it.
this is mimicking that case.
I get it.
And the guy that's infatuated that case is sitting right in front of me. And he's doing a really good job keeping it together. And I'm not buying it.
I'm not either.
And I'm not I just want to find her.
No,
For your kids. I just think you're dealing with a lot here. I think you've been dealing with a lot here. You have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old together. So I think something happened in that apartment.
but from you guys' perspective, why would I hurt or make the mother of my children disappear?
Because you're pissed.
I don't know that maybe it just happened. I don't know, but more happened, Adam. And I'm not saying that on a whim. I'm saying that based on the last 30 hours that we've spent on this case. Adam, you got to live too. And I just think you're holding back here. You know more.
No, I don't. I don't know. Maddie and I do not have any history of all of violence besides emotional or verbal.
Unfortunately, that's not what I heard
But
either.
we've never laid hands on each other or anything like that. So why someone would say that, I don't know. I know I can tell you.
I don't, I'm
know.
struggling because you guys
Okay.
went home, her
I want to believe
jacket
you,
was in
Adam.
the house, her bag for work was there.
Where was her phone? Did you guys ever find her phone?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So why would she leave all that behind? And no vehicle's gone and her jacket is there. I'm stuck right there. And then you leave a couple hours later and I'm just having a hard time with it.
Adam,
Told you what.
do you know that there's like some zip ties or something in the back of your van?
Yeah.
What's up with that?
I think we have that like in the storage compartment or something like that back there, which is other materials, but
Okay.
it's just stuff that we keep in the van.
Okay. What do you use those for?
I don't know why, I didn't put those there.
Okay.
It probably would have something, oh, maybe because a couple weekends ago, she took the van up to her dad. Her dad put a new, oil pan. She, some kind of major repair he did on the engine. And I know he had to zip tie something. Maddie mentioned he had to zip tie some vacuum hoses or something together. Maybe that's what it was from.
Okay.
But I've never personally zip tied something.
Like I said, Adam, your own admission, you're infatuated with the Gabby Petito story.
You gotta remember that was
This
how
is,
long ago was that?
well, this case is rearing some eerily
Yeah.
similar circumstances.
I get it.
Your timeline is off, and these text messages where you're kind of suddenly worried about her, they don't make sense, and they almost seem like they're intentional. They almost seem like they're breadcrumbs that you knew the police would pick up.
Okay.
And I'm trying to work with you here. Again,
I'm just saying now I'm not gonna say much because now my wall is up and I'm probably gonna have to get a lawyer because I'm feeling really accused and stuff. So, you know,
Okay.
I mean, you can ask what you want and I'll answer. I'm just saying I'm putting up my defense now. I've been working with you guys completely, but now I'm getting accused of stuff, so you know.
All I can say to that is we wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't
No,
try and do
I get that
Adam.
too. I get that too. So,
Only because I'll reiterate again, you were the last one to have seen her. You were the last one to be in the house at the same time when you were able to only have access to the house. You only had access to your cars. You went home with her. And so that's why there's doubt.
Yeah, he lawyered up there. Lawyered up there. All right. Okay, so just to prove to you guys, this is where we're at. So there's that. You can see down there, clock. We got 5 minutes, 20 seconds. So let's watch. So this is a short thing, and this is about the fight for the kids. All right. So after Maddie's gone missing. And then this is short, and then the last thing before the hearing that we'll watch, or actually I'm going to read, is his written statement. So he makes a written statement. He being Adam.
It's been more than 2 months now since a Minnesota mother of two disappeared under suspicious circumstances.
A 2-day trial to decide who should care for Madeline Kingsbury's kids was set to start tomorrow, but that has now been canceled. Fox 9's Rose Schmidt is here and tells us the next steps in this custody battle. Rose?
Randy, Kelsey, the biological father of Maddie's children agreed to a temporary custody agreement, and the kids will remain with Maddie's parents. But court filings today indicate Adam Fravel is not giving up his quest for custody. Monday morning, Adam Fravel appeared in court as he fights for parental rights. He shares 2 children aged 2 and 5 with Madeline Kingsbury. Following their mom's disappearance on March 31st, the young children were removed from Fravel's care because he does not have legal custody. Court documents show Fravel made an admission the children are in need of protective services. The Facebook group dedicated to finding Maddie Kingsbury, writing Monday, The children will remain with Maddie's parents temporarily until a custody hearing date is set. In the meantime, the case has been moved to family court, where Fravel has filed a formal custody petition. Police say he was the last person to see Maddie before she disappeared. Fravel has not been charged with any crime, and he insists he's done nothing wrong. He says he and Maddie dropped the kids off at daycare. He told police he left Maddie's home in her minivan to run errands, and when he came back later, she was gone. Investigators have called Maddie's disappearance involuntary and suspicious. As this custody battle continues, Maddie Kingsbury's loved ones are planning a benefit on Saturday. All the proceeds will go toward caring for her children. Randy.
All right.
Okay. So there's that. And then this, I want to pull this thing up real quick, and then we'll pivot over there to the hearing. All right. So this is a statement. Okay. All right. So this is from Fravel. Over the course of the last 12 days, my family and I have been subject to a myriad of accusations regarding the disappearance of the mother of my children, Maddie Kingsbury. During these last 12 days, I have cooperated with law enforcement at every turn, not true, including sitting down for multiple interviews with Winona County law enforcement. I did not have anything to do with Maddie's disappearance. I want the mother of my 5-year-old and 2-year-old to be found and brought home safely. I want more than anything that law enforcement, I want that more than anything. Law enforcement advised me on April 2nd that they would not recommend that I attend the press conference or that I assist in the searches due to safety concerns. However, my non-attendance and silence have been inferred by many as a sign of apathy or worse. That could not be further from the truth. I want Maddie home and for her to be able to be with our 2 children. God bless the Kingsbury family, and help, and please bring her home safely. So there's that. All right, I'm going to keep taking I want to take a peek over here real quick. Keep an eye on this. 1 minute 20. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just pop this up. And we'll put that in there. Okay. Looking at their chat.
Said I could, like, as if I can only appeal to people that look like me.
Was it a Democrat who told you that, or
It was a Democrat that told me that. And it was someone who was, considers themselves to be a political expert. And it's just one of those things that just, kind of, you can imagine how discouraging that is, and I've heard this throughout my life. When I was at the State Department working for this country, I was banned from working on issues related to Korea because I was Korean American. They questioned my loyalty to this country. So like those are the types of things that
is
have
that a
been
common
struggles.
practice at state?
Not anymore, because I was able to help.
Mandy, do you know if this is going to be audio only, or Dizzy actually sent this to me? Do you guys know if this is audio only? Because I know they're allowing cameras in, so I don't know if this is audio only.
Introduced legislation that bans that practice, but for a while, yes, it was something that was, particularly targeted. 100% American, that this perpetual foreigner trope is something that they believe on a fundamental level.
It seems then ubiquitous across American politics, because you just, in the span of the 1 minute, you talked about a Democrat saying you couldn't win because you're Asian, to the State Department having a policy that wouldn't allow, I guess, people of various ethnic origins to work on regions that they may have distant family ties to. That is very disheartening, Senator.
Yeah, but look, I mean, what I will say is, I stayed in the race. I said, like, look, I'm not going to let other people try to define what I am or am not capable of accomplishing simply because of the color of my skin and my last name. And I am proud, that I'm the 50th anniversary of my family coming to America, that I was
Okay, we're
sworn
going
in.
to pivot from that one. All right. Let's see. Found it. Okay, let's go here. Let's check this one out.
in this case. We know the judge. The judge is Nancy Beitendorf. We know that she was appointed in 2008 by Governor Tim Pawlenty. She's worked at J.D. Hamlin's, or she got her education at J.D. Hamlin University School of Law in St. Paul. You can see here Zach Bauer, Adam Fravel's defense attorney, setting up his laptop and getting ready for the sentencing hearing to take place. Let's look in live as we wait for the sentencing of Adam Fravel to take place. They look like they're about to begin any minute now. Let's take a look in.
Hot mic. Hot mic.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I can't. You're taking a live look in the Winona courtroom where the sentencing of Adam Fravel is about to take place. Let's go live there now.
Winona County is now in session. The other Nancy Byfield presiding.
You may be seated.
All right, we'll have the clerk call the case.
Calling State of Minnesota versus Adam Taylor Fravel, 85 CR 23937.
Right, and for the record, you are Adam Taylor Fravel, date of birth January 29, 1994.
Sounds right.
All right. Mr. Fravel, as you know, last month, a jury convicted you of 2 counts of murder in the first degree and 2 counts of murder in the second degree. At that time, the court ordered a pre-sentence investigation report, victim impact statements, and a sentencing worksheet. Those documents have now been filed with the court. Mr. Bauer, did you receive copies of those documents?
Yeah, we received copies of the pre-sentence investigation, the sentencing worksheet, and the victim impact statements.
I'll note for the record that Ms. Doken is also present in the courtroom. Also present in the courtroom is Ms. Sonneman, County Attorney, Mr. Popakowitz, and Ms. Gillespie. Ms. Sonneman, did the state receive copies of those sentencing documents?
We did as well, Your Honor, and I've reviewed those.
It's my understanding that some of the victim impact statements will be read in court. Is that right?
That's correct, Your Honor. We're prepared to ask the court to allow the several of the family members to read their impact statements. And then our Crime Victims Services Coordinator, Diana Miller, will read 2 of those statements from the family members. So we're ready for that.
All right, you can proceed with that then.
Thank you, Your Honor. The first to read her impact statement will be Madeline Kingsbury's mother, Krista.
Good afternoon.
Please state your name for the record.
Krista Hultgren.
Ms. Hultgren, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. The defendant could have stopped, but he didn't. He could have treated Madeline like the extraordinary person she was, but he didn't. He could have given Maddie and the kids a good life, but he didn't. Instead, he treated her like she was nothing and made her very existence miserable. He made her feel unlovable, and then he snuffed the life out of her. He ripped her from her children, her family, and her friends. All Madeline wanted was a good life with someone who would love her and the kids unconditionally. And she wanted Adam to continue to be involved in the kids' lives regardless if they were together or not. She felt bad for him, but she couldn't make herself fall in love with someone who treated her like she was nothing. She wanted and deserved more. The defendant never owned the right to keep Madeline isolated away, and he certainly didn't own the right to end her life. He has ruined so many lives, and he took my child from me. I don't understand why he thought killing her was the only option. There were so many opportunities to do something different. The only thing Madeline's children know will know about him when they're old enough to understand is what kind of a deplorable human being he turned out to be. Excuse me. Madeline posted a picture on March 26th, 2023, of her daughter enjoying birthday cake on her 5th birthday. We were all there. How sickening that just days later, Madeline was gone. And Noah had only recently weaned from nursing and was barely 2 years old. I will never forget that gut feeling or pit in my stomach on March 31st, 2023. I knew something was terribly wrong when I hadn't heard from Madeline all day. Little did I know that this was only the beginning of the end. I have been unable to work for much of the past 19 months due to mental and physical health issues caused by the defendant's action. I see how the defendant's action has rained catastrophic grief on Madeline's other mom, Kathy, and her father, David, and yet they have persevered and continued to provide a loving home for Madeline's children. Madeline's siblings, Megan, Stephen, and Holly, have had to deal with insurmountable sadness, yet continue to carry on with strength and resilience. The defendant's sentence is far from satisfying. It does not bring me joy. It does not ease my pain and suffering. However, a life sentence is just. He will need to live without his children, his family, his friends, his conveniences. He will live with what he did, and I pray he feels the weight of that for life. I continue to live my worst nightmare over and over again. There is no peace, no reassurance, no happy ending. Instead, Madeline's kids will grow up without their mommy, and we go on as best as possible without our daughter, sister, friend, and aunt. The wake he has left is far-reaching and hardly slows to a ripple. It will never be still. I will never understand why Adam took Madeline's life. There can never be an answer to satisfy that question. I will do my best to advocate for those in need of safety and protection, to love Madeline's children, and to be a good human and to heal in the best way possible. Thank you.
Ms. Sonneman?
The next individual to give a statement is one of Madeline Kingsbury's sisters.
Will you please state your name for the record?
Holly Waterston.
Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Holly Waterston, and Maddie is my stepsister through my mom, Kathy Kingsbury's marriage to Dave Kingsbury. I am here today to talk about the impact Maddie's disappearance, murder, and subsequent trial has had not only on me, but especially on the children of our family. It is impossible to describe all the pieces, infinite and complex, that make up our losses. We all now live on a shattered timeline of life. There was a giant fissure, a crack, on March 31st, 2023. Our lives will forever be defined in terms of before Maddie went missing and after. None of us will ever be the same people we were before this horrific nightmare started. Maddie was a deeply caring and thoughtful sister. She not only welcomed me with open arms to my family, but also had a special bond with my biological sister, Heather. After a lifelong battle with a rare autoimmune disease, Heather lost her life to leukemia. Her funeral was on June 7th, 2012, where Maddie shared a beautiful and compassionate poem she wrote to honor Heather. Exactly 11 years later, on June 7th, 2023, Maddie's body was found. 2 of my sisters dead. The sorrow I feel is massive and often too much to bear. I miss both Heather and Maddie equally. Their deaths have left equal-sized holes in my heart. However, there's a profound difference in the layers of suffering, anguish, and trauma between when a sister dies of a disease and when a sister goes missing for over 2 months, is found violently murdered, and then having to uphold her dignity during an arduous journey to justice. Maddie was an amazing aunt to my 3 daughters and to my other stepsister Katya's 2 young children.
It looks like there's a little bit of disruption in the connection right now, but you're listening to Maddie's stepsister, Holly Waterston, giving her victim impact statement. I'm hoping the connection, here we go.
To no one's surprise, Maddie was often at the center of this cousin crew, being the energetic, fun, creative mom and aunt that we all knew her to be. I miss my conversations with Maddie about navigating the intertwining joys and struggles of raising our little humans. Maddie brought an enormous amount of light and laughter to our lives. Backyard games, pool parties at Grandpa and Gagi's house, and family celebrations will never be the same. Throughout the course of the trial, we heard a lot about Adam's cloak of innocence. Today, on this day of sentencing, I ask the court to reflect on what Adam's actions have done to the children in our family. The children in our family don't get to walk through their young lives shrouded in a cloak of childhood innocence anymore. It was ripped from each of their tiny shoulders, stomped on, shredded, destroyed. My youngest twin daughter talks a lot about missing Maddie, how it's not fair Maddie was killed, and how Maddie didn't deserve what happened to her. One of the most difficult questions she asks is, why would Adam do this to someone he had kids with and said he loved? It is this question and its answer that gets to the heart of the most insidious secret truth within our society: domestic abuse and violence. It is a question I agonize over, and it is one that keeps me awake at night. My middle daughter, my youngest twin, had an immensely difficult time during the trial. She was often in tears, asking me things like, why did Adam do this? Why did he kill Maddie? Why didn't he tell people he did this so people didn't have to search for her? Why doesn't he tell people now so everyone doesn't have to be at the trial? The question of why remains for us all. It is a simple word with an endless ability to cut at our hearts, because it has no answer that will ever be sufficient. My youngest daughter always wants to know, how was Maddie killed? She is not satisfied with an answer of, Adam made Maddie stop breathing. She wants to know exactly how. She wants the details. There's no room for the gray space within my answers to her questions. She also repeatedly asks, is Adam still in jail? The underlying unspoken questions here, of course, are, am I safe? Can it happen to me? During one of our cousin's sleepovers, my youngest daughter and Maddie's son, Noah, came into my room, both of their little faces streaked with tears. My youngest daughter told me through her sobs, Noah woke me up. He is crying and asking for his mommy. As a parent of young children, I am no stranger to middle of the night wake-ups or kids being scared or worried. I am supposed to simply be able to explain that monsters aren't real, that they don't live under our beds or in our homes. I am supposed to be able to add another nightlight, maybe make some homemade monster spray, and hug their fears away as they drift off to sleep, forgetting their nightmare by daybreak. Nothing prepared me to try to comfort my nephew, who will never again be able to see, hear, or hug his mommy, because there is, in fact, a real-life monster who killed his mommy. I feel it is a nightmare that little Noah may never be able to escape, because the reality for him is that this monster and his father are one and the same. With young children involved, we don't have the privilege of pretending that the darkest and most difficult days are behind us. The generational trauma will likely be repeated in waves throughout the years as each child eventually learns and struggles to process the entirety of the horrific truth and the gruesome details behind Maddie's disappearance and brutal murder. For me, the emotional burden I carry weighs heavily on my heart. I often robotically and mechanically go through the routine of life, searching for a sense of normalcy. I've been left with an inability to truly accept joy. I am often flooded with a feeling of triviality that seeps into the far reaches of my existence. My support system is largely comprised of friends and family who have also been deeply impacted. Previously sturdy core relationships and dynamics have been innately changed. This is especially true with my mom, who is now raising children younger than my own and who no longer has the ability or capacity to be there for me or my kids in the same way she was before March 31st, 2023. I grieve for the connection, closeness, and memories that have been lost or never made. I haven't yet figured out how to incorporate this tragedy into my everyday life, even though I know I must. There are days when there are glimmers of hope, days when I can walk gracefully, holding hands with both my grief and my gratitude. However, there are many days where I stumble, and there are roadblocks I must continue to face. Even simply driving my kids to school can be triggering. On one road, there is culvert after culvert after culvert. Immediately, all I can see in my mind are flashbacks of Maddie's short, brown curly hair poking out of the top of the fitted sheet. Flashbacks of multiple law enforcement officers pulling Maddie out of the culvert where she was inhumanely stuffed and hidden. Flashbacks to the towel, tied, slip knotted, extremely tightly around her face. I try in vain to forget the surreal feeling I had as I watched the horrific video unfold in the courtroom. It was as though my body had separated from itself. I attempt to hold back the feelings of devastation I had the day Maddie was found. I cannot help but feel heartbroken about how scared and desperate Maddie must have been in her final moments of life. Those images, those feelings, that knowledge, they are not anything I will ever forget. As painful as it all is, they are also not something that should ever be forgotten. Adam needs to be held accountable. Adam's actions were disgusting, sickening, and particularly cruel. On the morning of March 31st, 2023, Adam seemingly felt entitled to unilaterally impart a death sentence on Maddie. Simultaneously, Adam gave each of us a life sentence as well. There's no parole for any of us to be released from this nightmare. This is forever our unthinkable reality. I am asking, pleading with the court today to follow through with mandatory and maximum sentencing for Adam. Life in prison with no possibility of parole. Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Sonneman.
Your Honor, the next individual will be David Kingsbury, the father of Madeline Kingsbury.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, Mr. Kingsbury.
For the record, my name is David Kingsbury. I'm Madeline's father. I have to think that there are a few things that's truly difficult to bear as the death of your child. The exception being that child brutally and senselessly murdered. It's an almost intolerable weight. Each morning, my mind painfully adjusts to the realization that it's not just a bad dream. Madeline is still really dead, and Adam Fravel killed her. My family bears it because we have to go on, but there's no avoiding the terrible anger, the tears, the gut-wrenching grief, the inevitable woulda, coulda, shouldas, and the unanswerable question, how could someone do this? Especially to someone as special as Madeline. The facts laid bare that she was attacked and killed by a coward twice her size, someone who she had once loved. She had made the audacious decision that she didn't deserve to be used or abused by him anymore. With that decision, her future was now looking bright, whereas life with him had been bleak and miserable. Unfortunately, she fatally misjudged him. When he realized that he couldn't control or manipulate her any longer, he decided to kill her. He thought, incredibly, he'd run home to his parents' house and apparently just wait it out. He thought no one would care about what happened to Madeline. No one would be the wiser. She'd just fade into memory while he'd get away with murder. There's really no words to adequately describe what impact this has had. I've experienced many things that will stay with me always. With a few examples, you can perhaps put yourself in my place. 69 days spent searching desperately for her. Nights staring out into the darkness, wondering where she was. Wondering if she was alive or dead, and wondering if we would ever find her. Then informing my family that our beloved daughter and sister was found dead. Learning that her body had been found wrapped in a sheet, stuffed in a culvert, covered with brush at the end of a dead-end road. Finally located because the sheriff's deputy was alerted by an unusually large gathering of flies. Authoring my youngest child's obituary. telling my grandchildren they'd never see their mommy again because their father had hurt her so badly that she died. For my final goodbye to my beautiful daughter, I held her, talked to her, sung to her, and promised we'd get her justice. She was in a body bag. Megan wanted to see her sister's body. I begged and prevailed on her not to do so. Better to remember Maddie as she was. Not an awful sight that would scar her psyche forever. I ordered an immediate cremation. Meanwhile, we were engaged in a very public and hotly contested court battle with Fravel for custody of Maddie's children. Though he was finally arrested and charged with her murder, this litigation continued. Moments before a video hearing began, the court's camera was live. He noticed we were on the video feed, locked eyes with my wife and I, and smirked at us. Smirked. At that moment, his true nature revealed. Resolute cruelty and pure evil. For me, certain proof that he killed Madeline, proof that he was glad he did it, and proof that he derives great pleasure from the carnage, destruction, and the grief he's caused. His only regret was being held accountable. The crocodile tears he shed in the courtroom the day the guilty verdicts came in were for himself. No remorse for what he's done to Madeline, to Ellie, and Noah, or the people that loved them. A word of thanks. Without the dedication of law enforcement, the efforts of thousands of community volunteers, the hard work of the county attorney's office and this court, he'd still be free and would most likely have the children. Madeline will still be in that culvert, deep in the woods, at the end of a dead-end road. My family owes a debt we can never repay. One of my greatest fears when Madeline disappeared was that no one would care. Thank God that wasn't true. She would send me messages, and it always came up on my phone that it was from the world's greatest kid. She truly was. And always will be the apple of my eye. Her name is Maddie. Thank you.
Ms. Sonneman.
Your Honor, the next individual will be Megan Kingsbury Hancock, who is Madeline Kingsbury's sister.
Good afternoon. Will you please state your full name for the record?
Yes, Megan Hancock.
Thank you.
Trying to describe how my sister, Madeline Jean Kingsbury's murder has impacted me is impossible, and it will always be impossible. Living through the experience of having a loved one being an endangered missing person for 69 days until they are ultimately found dead, discarded in the wilderness, wrapped and duct taped into a bed sheet. How do I tell you how that has impacted me? For many days and nights while Madeline was missing, myself and my family, we couldn't eat, we couldn't sleep, could hardly look at each other or speak to one another. We were robotic. Before Madeline was found, those 69 days were absolute torture. The world continues around you. People go to work, they run their errands, they go on vacation, they spend time with their kids, but you're there frozen in time. Life doesn't continue for you until you've completed the mission that you're on, and that was to find Madeline. For months, we lived out of hotels and suitcases. I was out of work. We were away from our homes, our friends, any sense of normalcy. My days consisted of news and law enforcement interviews, trying to map out areas in the wilderness to search, endless cups of coffee in place of food, many tears, very late nights, maybe 3 hours of sleep, and then getting up to do it all over again. Our days were spent in fields and marshes, by rivers and creeks, in the bluffs and in forests, looking for any sign of Madeline. I watched my parents crumble and disintegrate and turn into shadows of themselves. Their eyes having that 1,000-yard stare and just empty, not knowing what to say or do and just being at a complete loss. How do I tell you what it's like to have Madeline's children have to tell them that we don't know where their mommy is and that she's lost? How do you explain that to two kids that are so young? How do you explain to them that they can't ever go back to the home that they knew and they will never live with their parents again? I was not the one to ultimately tell the children that their mother died. My father and stepmother took that burden, but I've certainly been there for the questions and the wonderings of a 3 and a 6-year-old, both about their mother and their father. I've been there to hear my 6-year-old niece say that mommy was too young to die. And I will always remember exactly where in my home I was sitting when my dad told us all that remains had been found, and they were 99% sure that they belonged to my sister Madeline. I'll always remember how I fell to the floor and I'll always remember the absolute feeling of emptiness in the days and weeks after. And how do I tell you what it was like to drive with my dad to accompany Madeline's remains to the funeral home where she would ultimately be cremated? I was in the same vehicle as her. She was right there. How could she be that person in the body bag right behind me? How can that be true? And how can I tell you what it was like to try to have a semblance of a goodbye through that body bag? Watching my father collapse onto her and say how sorry he was over and over again, and singing "You Are My Sunshine" to her one last time. I'll never forget the sounds he made of grief and sorrow. How can I tell you what it was like to feel how much of her was already gone, to hold her hand through the body bag, to know that she was right there? To know that if I did see her, that wouldn't be her anymore. How can I tell you what it was like to accompany her right to the end, helping to guide her into the incinerator because we refused to let her be alone anymore? I can't tell you what it was like. It's indescribable. In the aftermath, trying to piece my life back together, many aspects of my daily life and my being have been affected. I couldn't get a proper night's sleep. I still can't. I could hardly leave the house. I rarely spoke to anyone. I wasn't caring for myself on a base level. Intrusive thoughts, flashbacks. I started trauma therapy and was diagnosed with PTSD. This has affected my job and my ability to work as before, affected my physical, my mental health, my relationships with my husband, my family, and my friends. I was recently married, an event my sister Madeline should have been present for. She should have been there for the dress shopping, the planning. She should have been there standing right beside me as my maid of honor. And though my wedding day was one of my happiest days, but it was also one of my hardest. I didn't want to get married without her, but that choice was made for me by somebody else. That's one of the worst parts, is that we have no choice. Madeline is gone. Every holiday, every special event, every milestone, we have no choice. We have to carry on without her. The defendant made the choice to take her life, which he had no right to do. He made the choice to rob the children of their mother and consequently of their father as well. Sometimes, not very often, I do think of the defendant, and I've never truly hated anyone before. Some people have the ability to forgive and believe that it frees them and lessens their burden, and I can appreciate that. I will never forgive what he has done. And of course, I will never forget. And some would say that my hatred will eat me alive. I would disagree. The amount of space that the defendant holds in my mind is so small, it's minuscule even. The amount of space in my mind and my heart that I hold for Madeline is exponentially larger. The amount of pure love I held and still hold for my sister, Madeline, far outweighs the hatred that I feel. And the defendant will most likely proclaim his innocence for the rest of his life. Myself and my family and friends of Madeline do not need him to admit it, because we all know the truth. Perhaps the defendant is happy with what has become of my family and what has become of Madeline, and to that I would say this: we are not broken. Madeline will forever be remembered and loved. Her children will know who their mother is and was. They will also know, when they're old enough, what happened to her, and that their father is the monster who took her from them. We will be there with them to carry them through the hard times and guide them through life as Madeline would have. And though the defendant's actions have shrouded us in darkness for a time, Madeline's light will never be extinguished. Her name and her loving, kind spirit will never be forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ms. Sonneman.
Thank you, Your Honor. Diana Miller, again, who's our Crime Victims Services Coordinator, is going to read the statements of Kathy Kingsbury and Stephen Kingsbury. Kathy Kingsbury would like to stand up with Ms. Miller while she reads that, if the court would allow that.
Sure. That's Ms. Kingsbury. Ms. Miller, could you just state your full name and the victim's full name as well for the record?
Diana Miller, Catherine Kingsbury.
Go ahead.
Your Honor. On April 4th, 2023, 5 days after Maddie was last seen alive, Social Services brought Ellie and Noah to the hotel where we were staying. The children let out squeals of joy when they saw so many of their family gathered together. They ran and played for hours. That night, they slept in bed next to Dave and me in our hotel room. In the middle of the night, Ellie started crying, "I want mommy." Noah heard her and started whimpering, "Mommy, mommy." I rushed to their bed to comfort them while trying the best that I could to hold in my tears and my anguish for their sake. Dave involuntarily let out a loud moan and ran to the bathroom to turn on the shower to try to muffle his guttural cries of agony. His wailing tore my heart to pieces. He couldn't bear to come out for 3 full hours. It was a horrific night that no one should ever have to experience in their lifetime. The only saving grace was that I was able to comfort the children and get them back to sleep right away. Notably, there were no more pleas for Daddy. 2 days earlier, Krista, Maddie's mom, had been sitting with us in our hotel room. We were 3 inconsolable parents seeking refuge with one another. We knew that Maddie would never voluntarily leave her children. Sorrow and agony overcame us, and Krista retreated to the bathroom and attempted to stifle her own guttural wails while I fought to manage my breathless sobbing. A parent's heartache at the loss of a child cannot be comforted. Our lives had forever been turned upside down. And this was only the first few days of the emotional torture that we endured after Maddie was deemed to be missing. We all cried until we couldn't cry anymore. Most of us couldn't sleep more than a couple of hours at a time, if at all. Eating was something that we forced ourselves to do. We ran out of words to say to each other. It's impossible to accurately describe the agony that we all suffered and our feelings of helplessness. We cannot thank the community enough for bringing food, providing housing, searching, plus so much more while we struggled to carry on each day. Dave and I spent the first 6 weeks in Winona to be near where Maddie had last been seen alive. This was very important to us. We eventually had to make the difficult decision to leave for the sake of the children and to get them back to our own home and more normalcy. The home where Maddie had grown up and that the children knew. It wasn't an easy decision to make because we felt like we were abandoning Maddie, since she had not yet been found. It was 69 days of pure torture, not knowing where Maddie's body had maliciously been hidden. She was out there in the snow, the rain, the heat, and yet Adam did not come clean, nor did he show any compassion or remorse. The heartache has been endless and compounded. On May 31st, 2023, we were back in Winona at a hotel, and we all eventually fell asleep. A few hours later, Ellie woke up and was unusually insistent that I lie down next to her, so I did. She held onto my arm so tightly that my arm went numb, but she went back to sleep. Noah was on the other side of the bed. He suddenly became distraught and restlessly started whimpering, "Mama, Mama," and extended one arm upwards as if reaching for something. He had not done this before. I checked my phone to see what time it was and saw that it was already after midnight. It was Maddie's birthday. We had not yet told the children that Mommy's birthday was that day. Possibly it was a coincidence that this happened. What do I know, though, and all too clearly, what I do know, though, and all too clearly, was the sick feeling I had in my stomach that night, and that this incident will forever be etched in my mind. By all accounts, Maddie's children are happy and thriving. Dave and I have been blessed to be able to be with them nearly every day since April 4th, 2023. Yet Ellie and Noah rightfully belong in the arms of their mother. All of us have made it our mission to be sure that they feel safe and secure and that they're grounded. Those of us who know them and see them regularly, if not daily, will tell you that you wouldn't know that the children have suffered the tragedy that they have. We're grateful for that for their sake. They're young and resilient now and deserve to be happy as they are. Sadly, though, as they grow older, they will begin to understand that their father was not only convicted of killing their mother, but that he also planned it. Maddie loved her children more than anything else on this earth. Her efforts to make sure that her children's future included their father were slashed by that very same father. I will never understand a father who could and did do this to his children. He took away a mother's love, the type of love that only Maddie could give them. The knowledge of this horror will haunt me forever. All that Adam had to do was walk away and let Maddie go. He chose not to do that. He chose evil over good, forever causing emotional harm to his own children. All of us in Maddie's immediate family, her extended family, and her friends will make sure that the children will grow up knowing their mother's love. It's the best that we can do, yet it will never be enough because we can't get her back, and she can't be with her precious children. Maddie was undoubtedly one of the most genuinely beautiful souls I've ever known in my life. I'm grateful for the time that I had with her and that I was able to be loved by her. And I couldn't have loved Maddie more if she had been my biological child. This spunky little spirit of a girl had my heart from the beginning. Never again will we have our long talks and share our hopes, our joys, our sorrows, and concerns in life. I'll never again be able to hear her singing in the kitchen or laugh with her or hear her walk in the door and say, "I'm home." Every day I wake up and my first realization is that she's gone and she's not coming back. Her loss in my life is irreparable. I have now lost 2 daughters, one of whom was purposely taken from us. I thank the court for this opportunity to be heard, and I support a life sentence without parole.
Ms. Kingsbury. Thank you, Ms. Miller. For that second impact.
Your Honor, this is the victim impact statement of Stephen Kingsbury, Madeline's brother. Your Honor, it is a struggle to attempt to summarize on paper the immeasurable impact that this incident has had on our entire family. The murder of my younger sister, Madeline Jane Kingsbury, has created without a doubt a multi-generational wound that will take an untold number of years to heal. For some, it may never. The overwhelming grief and guilt of those closest to the situation, not only geographically, but those with intimate knowledge of the patterns of control and abuse exhibited by the defendant over the years toward Madeline, I'm certain will be haunted forever by the thought that their efforts, if made at all to intervene, were not good enough to defeat the evil that clouded her day-to-day life. The double life she lived was imposed by one individual. The meticulously thought out, painstakingly crafted, self-serving environment and mechanisms were created by leveraging her good nature, optimism, emotional weakness, fears, and love of her children. Madeline had everything to look forward to in life, a promising career path, and the joy of raising her children to adulthood, maybe even to see grandchildren of her own one day. There's truly no limit on how much of a gift she was and would have been to those who loved her, those she loved, and the world around her. Despite the conditions she endured, Madeline was making her way in the world in a very meaningful and impactful fashion. Simply put, she was robbed in the most permanent of ways: brutal, deliberate, hands-on violence. From my experience as a service member with 3 combat tours, I can without a doubt state with full belief and or opinion that the way she was stolen from this world was carried out with the most intimately savage intentions and actions a human being can visit on another. As involved and personal as it gets, and there are no half measures or fumblings if there's an end state in mind by the perpetrator. This was not for any cause other than self-centered fear, greed, embarrassment, and personal failings of the guilty party as a functioning member of society, partner, a father, and a man, being past and present extremely subpar in all these respects. What has happened is so complexly tragic that mentally unpacking and examining it all is an arduous labor with what at times seems to have no end. For many, there isn't one. The verdict in this case brings about some measure of closure, knowing what the sentence generally entails. But for most of us, closure is a hollow term. My parents have still lost a child, my siblings and I, a sister. Most heart-wrenching, her 2 innocent children are robbed of their mother. Children are supposed to be innocent. In an effort to preserve this, they only know that mommy and daddy are both gone. They use words that have no meaning to them, as told to them by others, to try to understand concepts and realities that will have no true substance until they're old enough to be told what has transpired. It will always have to be considered the impact this will have on their lives, how it will potentially steer the course for the people they grew up to be. It's a challenge that will be constant for them in varying degrees. They will know of their mother. They will know what happened to her and why she isn't there to shepherd them through this world in a way that only a loving mother can. No earthly atonement for her murder will measure up to match the gravity of the sin. It's my opinion that for any persons who commit a crime so specifically motivated by greed and the narcissistic need for control, and who can for no justified reason snuff out another soul with such arrogance and casual disregard for life, there are no earthly works or repentance that can reshape said person's nature at its core for real change. That power lies with God alone. I submit in the end, all will be judged accordingly. We extend our utmost gratitude to all parties involved in bringing justice in accordance with our laws. It can never be understated how much our family appreciates all tireless, relentless work efforts. Truth and right have prevailed regardless of obstacles. Let it be heard that everyone has the ability to create positive change in the lives of those around them. Actions are often greater than words. We have a responsibility to each other as human beings to take steps to intervene and assist in times of crisis, especially for those who are too broken or lost to advocate for themselves. I would like to thank the court for hearing this statement, Victim Services for reading it aloud in my stead, and all present to hear.
Thank you, Ms. Kingsbury, and to you.
Do you prefer that we stand or sit?
However.
Elected by the citizens of Winona County to serve this community as the chief prosecutor for Winona County. And in that capacity, I ask you to sentence Adam Taylor Fravel according to the law. A jury found Mr. Fravel guilty of first-degree premeditated murder and 3 crimes premeditated murder. The law provides that the punishment for first-degree premeditated murder is life in prison without the possibility of parole, and I ask you to impose that sentence. Your Honor, this case profoundly affected our community like no other I have observed in my 35 years in Winona County practicing law, and certainly not like any other during my 14 years as Winona County attorney. While every crime that is committed affects our community's sense of safety and security, the crimes committed by Mr. Fravel shook the very foundations of our community, shedding a very bright light on the extremes of domestic violence and revealing the evil acts of a man who had no care as to how his actions would affect his children for their lifetimes. This case galvanized a community to search for a missing mom of 2 young children, whose life ended tragically, leaving a gaping hole in the lives of those she loved and who loved her. When Madeline Jane Kingsbury's close friends and family became concerned about after they did not hear from her on March 31st, 2023, her family contacted the Winona City Police Department that same day to report her missing. The police department launched an investigation and shortly thereafter, with the help of area law enforcement agencies, began a massive search for Ms. Kingsbury. When law enforcement asked for help to expand the search area, over 2,000 individuals from across the region responded. Led by the Winona City Police Department, the law enforcement community and the community at large worked tirelessly to find Madeline Jane Kingsbury. The community was also galvanized to find her and were joined by other community members at a packed vigil on May 6, 2023, at First Congregational Church here in the city of Winona, a vigil that had been moved from Lake Park due to weather conditions. Over 250 people in person and another 700 or so online came together at that vigil for Madeline Jane Kingsbury. A quote from the WCCO TV station's report about the vigil is telling. Kingsbury's sorority sisters, family, friends, and others packed inside First Congregational Church in Winona, keeping her memory alive, along with the hope that someone would find her. Another quote from that same report from one individual said, "She was the kindest, most beautiful soul. Even on the brightest days, it still feels dark and gloomy without her here. I wake up from nightmares and quickly realize they are not as terrifying as the nightmare I am living through." Your Honor, Adam Taylor Fravel had concealed Madeline Jane Kingsbury's body in such a way that he hoped she would never have been found, but she was found due to the tenacity of law enforcement and the community searching to find her. 69 long and agonizing days after Madeline Jane Kingsbury went missing, her decomposing body was finally discovered on June 7th, 2023, by a Fillmore County deputy sheriff who heard the noise of an unusual amount of flies swarming. Those flies led the deputy to find Ms. Kingsbury's body concealed both in that culvert and covered with heavy logs and branches far away from her Winona home. Upon that discovery, hope gave way to grief and anger. The community at large mourned her death along with her family and friends. Mr. Fravel's actions have forever changed the lives of others. This includes traumatizing the children he shared with Ms. Kingsbury, who were 2 and 5 at the time of her death. As the family impact statements reveal, the children kept asking for their mommy, "Where's mommy?" Mr. Fravel's actions put an entire community in mourning, a community in shock, left her family devastated, left the lives of her children changed forever because of their father's evil act. But Your Honor, justice has caught up with Adam Taylor Fravel, and justice will be served for Madeline Jane Kingsbury, her family, her friends, her community, this community, by this court sentencing Adam Taylor Fravel to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Thank you, Ms. Sonneman. Mr. Fowler?
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, the defendant and the defense team acknowledges the jury's verdict in this case, and obviously the service that jury put in over the course of multiple weeks. Although we disagree with the verdict and whether there existed sufficient evidence to support some verdicts in this case, we understand Mr. Fravel has a right to appeal. He will certainly exercise that right moving forward. We also recognize that given the Minnesota statute in this case, that a first-degree murder verdict requires life imprisonment, and specifically that under Minnesota statute 609.106, the court does not have any ability to give any type of sentence other than life without the possibility of parole. We anticipate the court will do that in this case, and I have nothing further. Thank you.
Fravel, you don't have to say anything. Your attorney for you. Is there anything else you want to say before I impose sentence?
Very briefly. I never caused harm to Maddie, and I am innocent. Thank you.
Today, this courtroom serves as a reminder of the tragic results of a planned act of violence that has forever changed the lives of at least 2 families and left a lasting impact on our community. We mourn the loss of Maddie Kingsbury, a life taken too soon by an act of unimaginable cruelty. To Maddie's family, no words from this court can undo what has been taken from you. The verdict in this case affirms Maddie's worth, our commitment to justice, and our resolve to hold people accountable for such acts. To the family of the defendant, I do recognize the weight of this day for you as well. You too face a loss, though it is different from that of the victim's family. Your pain, though distinct, is not overlooked by this court. Domestic violence affects not only the victim, but entire families and communities, leaving deep scars.
I'm going to try to switch the feed. This feed's driving me nuts. All that bullshit. Let me see. Let's see if this one's any better. Is it possible that this is worse? Oh.
It's that a first degree.
A court can undo what has been taken from you. The verdict in this case affirms Maddie's worth, our commitment to justice, and our resolve to hold people accountable for such acts. To the family of the defendant, I do recognize the weight of this day for you as well. You too face a loss, though it is different from that of the victim's family. Your pain, though distinct, is not overlooked by this court. Domestic violence affects not only the victim, but entire families and communities, leaving deep scars. In this case, the greatest impact is on the 2 young children who have lost both their mother and their father.
Here you go, Mandy. It actually is worse.
From everyone around them. Their suffering is a powerful reminder of the far-reaching effects of violence and the importance of addressing and preventing it. Mr. Fravel.
Oh my God. All right. I'm pulling this one. It might be all the same feed, though. It seems like it clearly is. All right, so let's see here.
In this case, the greatest impact is on the two young children who have lost both their mother and their father.
We are experiencing some audio issues.
Everyone around them feel.
Yeah, you are.
Their suffering is a powerful reminder of the far-reaching effects of violence and the importance of addressing and preventing it. Mr. Fravel.
I mean, we know what he's getting.
Children and on the community. It is impossible to fully understand the pain that you have caused, not only for those who love Maddie, but also for your own family, who must now deal with the consequences of your actions. You have taken from these children not just their mother, but their stability and a sense of security that every child deserves. They will carry the burden of this tragedy for the rest of their lives. Their future is forever changed by your actions. As a society, we have laws to protect the vulnerable, maintain order, and ensure accountability. When those laws are broken in such a deliberate and cruel manner, it is the court's responsibility to act. The sentence in this case will reflect the seriousness of your crime and will ensure justice for Maddie and her family. It will be a clear reminder that actions do have consequences and that violence like this will not be tolerated. Before proceeding with sentencing, I would like to acknowledge the work of law enforcement, the officers and the investigators in this case. Their efforts have been crucial in ensuring justice is served. Mr. Fravel, the jury has found you guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of second-degree murder. Under Minnesota statutes, a defendant may not be convicted of multiple counts of murder for the same offense arising from the same acts and involving the same victim. Therefore, you will be sentenced solely for the conviction of murder in the first degree premeditation, with the remaining charges being vacated as lesser included offenses. The sentencing worksheet is correct. This is a severity level 12 offense. Under Minnesota statute, the law mandates a sentence of life imprisonment without the possibility of release for first-degree murder premeditation. Therefore, Mr. Fravel, it is the judgment of this court that you be committed to the custody of the Commissioner of Corrections and sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of release. The sentence reflects the severity of your actions and serves as a clear statement that such violence will not be tolerated in this community. It is my hope that today's proceedings will bring a measure of closure for those impacted and inspire collective action to prevent future tragedies of this nature. Mr. Fravel, you do have to provide a DNA sample that is pursuant to statute, and an $85 surcharge will be imposed and sent to collections. You do have the right to appeal your conviction or the sentence or both directly to the Minnesota Supreme Court. I strongly encourage you to consult with your attorney or the state public defender's office to understand your options regarding an appeal. Mr. Fravel, do you have any questions, or is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, good.
Anything further from the state?
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Bauer?
No, thank you.
All right, Mr. Fravel, you are hereby remanded to the custody of the Commissioner of Corrections to serve your sentence. This court is adjourned.
All rise.
See you, shitbag. All right. So that piece of shit's going exactly where he needs to go. So I thought kind of to wrap it, we'd go through, since we didn't get to see the trial, I thought it would be a decent idea to go through the probable cause affidavit. It'll at least give us an idea of what they had in order to convict him. So Dizzy found this. So let's go through this thing. So let's see, make it bigger. So on March 31st at approximately 8:20 p.m., the Winona Police Department was contacted by a person who identified herself as a friend of Madeline Jane Kingsbury. The date of birth, 6/1 of 96. The friend reported to police that she was concerned with the health and safety of Madeline. According to the friend, Madeline had not attempted to contact or communicate with her throughout the day, which the friend indicated was unusual. The friend was concerned, had gone to Madeline's residence, saw her minivan in the driveway, and knocked on the door. No one responded. The friend also told police that she was aware that Madeline was having issues with her significant other, who also lived at the residence. The friend identified the significant other as Adam Fravel. Winona police officers met the friend at Madeline's residence located in Winona County, Minnesota. An officer knocked on the door of the residence and looked in the windows. No one responded, and the officer did not see anyone inside. Shortly thereafter, officers spoke with Madeline's father on the telephone and learned that her family had also not had contact with her that day. Father reported that it was uncharacteristic for Madeline not to have contact with family members or friends. A Winona police officer spoke with Adam Taylor Fravel, DOB 12994, by telephone. According to Fravel, he had not heard from Madeline since early in the morning, that she was supposed to pick up the children at their Winona daycare after she finished working, but she did not. Fravel stated that he picked up the children at the daycare and took them to his parents' residence in Mabel, Minnesota. Later that evening, officers were able to conduct a welfare check inside the Winona residence and determine that no one was in the residence. Law enforcement investigators have spoken with the children's daycare provider, who confirmed that both Madeline and Fravel were present when they dropped their children off at daycare on the morning of March 31st, 2023 at approximately 8:05 a.m. The daycare provider also stated that Fravel was alone when he picked the children up at the end of the day. On April 1st of 2023, law enforcement investigators obtained a search warrant for the Madeline Fravel residence in Winona. The interior of the residence was cluttered, but there did not appear to be overt signs of a struggle. During the search, law enforcement officers located what investigators later determined to be Madeline's cell phone, jacket, and purse in the residence. Investigators also located a laptop computer that investigators later determined Madeline used to work from home. Investigators later obtained access to the cell phone's databases. It was determined that a text message was sent from the cell phone to Madeline's sister on March 31st, 2023 at 8:15 a.m. Investigators noted there was no subsequent text messages or phone calls sent from Madeline's cell phone. Law enforcement investigators had follow-up conversations with Adam Fravel on April 1st and April 2nd, 2023. During these conversations, Fravel told investigators that he had met Madeline at college in Winona and that they had had an on and off again relationship for the past 7 years. Fravel stated that they had 2 children, ages 5 and 2. Fravel indicated that Madeline worked from home and in Rochester, Minnesota. Fravel stated that Madeline would generally travel to Rochester for work on Mondays and Fridays. Fravel acknowledged that Madeline was the primary income producer for the family, and she would forward him money electronically to pay the family bills. Fravel acknowledged that recently the relationship was not working, so they decided to separate and were in the process of moving out of their Winona residence. Madeline had been looking at different apartments in the area for her and her children to live in. Fravel indicated that about 2 weeks ago, Madeline told him that she had begun a relationship with another man, but that he did not know how long the relationship had been going on. Fravel stated that on Friday, March 31st, 2023, together he and Madeline dropped their children at daycare at around 8 a.m. and they drove home. Once they arrived, Madeline stated that she had an online meeting and afterwards was going to Rochester for work. He indicated he observed Madeline go downstairs to her home office. Also during the conversations, Fravel stated that he had planned to do a property storage runs most of the day. His plan was to travel to his parents' home near Maple, Minnesota, with items he wanted to store at his parents' residence and return to Winona and take the items to Midwest Storage located in Winona. Fravel indicated that prior to leaving for Mabel, he had stopped at a gas station near his Winona residence. He said that when he loaded up Madeline's van, he wasn't really paying attention to what he was loading. Fravel believed that he had left his residence and began driving to Mabel at approximately 10:15 a.m. Fravel continued with the following information. Fravel stated that when he got to Choice, an area in Fillmore County, he started thinking about what he was going to do. He said he looked to the rear in the van and realized the items that he had were meant to be stored at the storage unit, not at his parents' place. He turned around in the driveway of a barn in Choice and drove back to his residence in Winona. Fravel believed he arrived at the residence at about 11:30 a.m. and emptied the van at the Madeline Fravel residence. Fravel stated that he did not make any stops on his trip to and from Choice. When he entered the residence, he did not see Madeline. He stated he did not notice his car was still home and thought that Madeline may have carpooled to Rochester. Oh, he did notice his car was still home. Fravel stated he remained at the residence for the remainder of the afternoon. During this time, he texted Madeline but never got a response. Eventually, he went downstairs and Madeline was not there. He stated that he texted Madeline regarding picking up the kids and asking about plans for supper. When she did not respond, he decided to pick up the children at the daycare and drive them to his parents' residence in Mabel. Also during that conversation, oh, hold on one second. Sorry about that. I had a little person ringing the doorbell. Okay, so eventually he went downstairs. Madeline was not there. He said that he texted Madeline regarding picking up the kids and asked about plans for supper. When she did not respond, he decided to pick up the children at the daycare and then drive them to his parents' residence in Mabel. Why would he do that? Such a weird decision. Also, during the conversations with Fravel, law enforcement disclosed to Fravel a concerned person's report that Fravel told Madeline that if she did not listen up, that she would end up like Gabby Petito. Fravel admitted being infatuated with the Gabby Petito case. Fravel also admitted that he made a statement to Madeline about her ending up like Gabby Petito. Fravel claimed that he was trying to make a joke. Yeah, hilarious joke. The Gabby Petito case made national news. It was the story of a 22-year-old woman who went missing. After extensive searches, Petito's remains were found near a park in Wyoming. It was reported Petito died of strangulation. The media also reported that Petito's fiance claimed responsibility for her death in a notebook. Investigating officers spoke with a friend of Madeline who indicated that sometime in 2020 or 2021, she was on a video call with Madeline, who was at her home, at her Winona residence. Madeline standing up, holding one of her children and cooking dinner. The friend observed Fravel enter the room and yell at Madeline to keep quiet. Madeline asked Fravel to calm down, and he stated he was not going to calm down, and he struck Madeline in the face with his hand. Wow. It appeared that Fravel was not aware that he was being observed on the video call. So when the friend yelled at Fravel over the video call, he immediately left the room. The friend told investigators that there were several times during video calls that she observed bruises on Madeline's face. When the friend inquired about the bruises, Madeline would cover them with a sweater. Investigators spoke with a family member of Madeline's. During that conversation, the family member discussed an earlier incident. The family member said that she learned Fravel put his hands around Madeline's throat. Family member went with another person to go get Madeline. The family member noted that Madeline had a red mark on the side of her neck that day. Pursuant to search warrants, investigating officers conducted forensic extractions on 2 Apple iPhones believed to be belong to Madeline. A review of the forensic extractions of those 2 phones revealed Kingsbury is the owner and the user. There were messages as well as screenshots of messages between Madeline and Fravel dating back numerous years. One screenshot taken on September 21st of 2021 contained the following iMessage conversation between Madeline and Fravel. Maddie, you know, I'm not really okay with or over the fact that you put your hand around my neck and pushed me down in front of the kids earlier, so don't. Maddie, not okay with it at all. Not okay with it at all, but especially with them there. Fravel, you'll adjust. Maddie, the fuck I will. Maddie, you do that again without asking me and you can go somewhere else. Fravel, you got it, mother. Maddie, don't patronize me. That crossed the line. Fravel, then mind. Maddie, stop. Law enforcement investigators were able to obtain videos from security cameras and motion detection video devices at multiple residences and businesses located in the Winona neighborhood where Madeline Kingsbury and Adam Fravel resided. And along the route, Fravel stated that he took towards his parents' residence the morning of March 31st, 2023. The videos reveal the following events from March 31st of 2023. 9:44 a.m., Madeline's van is observed in the driveway of the Madeline Fravel residence in Winona. A person in a light-colored coat is observed walking up to the front of the van, bends over, and appears to remove the license plate on the front of the van. 9:47 a.m., the van is still in the driveway, and the same person is observed kneeling in front of the van and appears to be reinstalling a license plate. 9:55 a.m., a person wearing a light-colored coat or a sweatshirt gets in to Madeline's van while it is parked in the driveway of the Madeline Fravel residence in Winona. 10 a.m., the van is no longer at the residence. 10:02 a.m., the van is observed parked at a gas station where Fravel said he had gotten gas, and a person wearing a light-colored jacket and matching the general description of Adam Fravel is observed pumping gas. Investigators also noted that the license plate on the van matches the license plate registered to the car. Fravel normally drives and not the plate registered to the van. Registered to the car that Fravel normally drives and not the plate registered to the van. Investigating officers noticed that when they observed the van later in the evening on March 31st and on April 1st, 2023, the license plates registered to the van were back on the van. 10:31 a.m., the van is observed backed into the driveway at the Madeline Fravel residence in Winona. 11:26 a.m., the van is observed driving away from the residence. 11:44 a.m., a van matching the description of Madeline's van is observed traveling southbound on Highway 43 in the direction of Rushford and Mabel, Minnesota. 11:56 a.m., a van matching the description of Madeline's van is observed traveling southbound on Highway 43 in Rushford and in the direction of Mabel. 11:59 a.m., a van matching the description of Madeline's van is observed traveling southbound on Highway 43 south of Rushford and in the direction of Choice and Mabel, Minnesota. 12:44 p.m., approximately 45 minutes later, a van matching the description of Madeline's van is observed on a video from the same location traveling northbound on Highway 43 in the direction of Rushford and Winona. 12:47 p.m., a van matching the description of Madeline's van is observed traveling northbound on Highway 43 in Rushford. At 1 p.m., a van matching the description of Madeline's van is observed traveling northbound on Highway 43 and turned east onto Winona County Road 12 in the direction of Winona. At 1:28 p.m., a van matching the description of Madeline's van is observed in the driveway of her Winona residence. As part of their investigation, law enforcement officers traveled the route Fravel stated he drove on the morning of March 31st, 2023. Investigators noted that with the exception of the 45-minute time period between the time he is observed traveling south on Rushford on Highway 43 and later at the same location traveling northbound on Highway 43, The times are consistent with normal expected travel times between the locations. On June 23rd, or on June 7th of 2023, a deputy with the Fillmore County Sheriff's Office was searching a rural area in Fillmore County next to a public gravel road approximately 1 mile from Highway 43 between Choice and Mabel, Minnesota. Investigating officers learned that this property had been routinely maintained by one or more of the Fravel family members. This property was also near the residence of the Fravel's parents. While searching the property, the deputy located human remains in a culvert adjoining gravel road. The remains had been wrapped in what appeared to be a gray fitted bed sheet that had been closed with black, quote, gorilla tape, end quote. Investigators noted that a previous search of the Madeline Fravel Winona residence, they observed a roll of black gorilla tape that appears to be the same color and width as the tape found on the fitted sheet that Madeline was wrapped in. Investigators also noted that the gray fitted sheet appears to be similar to other bedding at the Winona residence. Additionally, the air mattress from the Winona residence was missing a fitted sheet. On the top of the air mattress without a fitted sheet were pillows that had gray pillowcases. The human remains were transferred to the Southern Minnesota Regional Medical Examiner's Office in Rochester, Minnesota. The medical examiner's office identified the human remains as Madeline Jane Kingsbury from dental records and tattoos. The ME noted the knotted towel had been wrapped around Madeline's head and neck. The medical examiner's office performed an autopsy. A preliminary autopsy report determined the manner and cause of death as homicide and homicidal violence. Okay. So there's that. So that, I mean, dude's a giant piece of shit. He's guilty as hell. So there's that. So today was a day for justice. As you can see from the family, I talk about it all the time. These cases just, they give some semblance of closure, but it's certainly, in terms of healing, it doesn't do much, I wouldn't imagine. I guess you feel some semblance of justice, I guess, but it's just so tragic. Ugh. And I saw everybody in chat, to all those that share, who are survivors of either trauma or DV or both or worse. Thank you for sharing. You guys have a safe space here. We always encourage you to feel free to share here because we have a lot of folks in here that are similarly situated. So it's a good place to be able to do that, and you can feel safe here. And we'll always protect you here. And we'll always cover these types of cases because they are devastating. And I just want to end this live with a plea, really. And I'm glad that you're throwing that up there, that if you're a victim of domestic violence, no matter how minor it may seem in the beginning, get out. Get yourself, whatever you have to do to get out, whether it's family, friends, whatever you need to do, get out. Don't stay in the situation. It never gets better. It only escalates. And, there's people out there that will help you. I promise. Don't stay. Don't stay. And that's absolutely true, Mandy. There's so many forms of domestic violence. The financial side of it is crippling. I understand that. And I know that it makes it almost seem impossible. It makes you feel trapped, but you're not. You're not trapped. Believe me when I tell you this, you are not trapped. So it was devastating. Those victim impact statements just crushed me. They were so well written and just so articulate about how this affects these people. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So, no, I love you guys. Tough case, right result. We can take some bit of solace in that piece of shit's going down. What's up, J-Bo? Miss you, man. I miss you. Got to get you on live here. See what's going on in the world of jabronius. So we'll figure out what we're going to do tomorrow. Kind of waiting for a good trial to start. As you guys know, the sentencing in the Allen case is Friday. I anticipate that I'll be going there for that, even though that's seems to be a foregone conclusion. I'm sure, much like what happened here, where even though Fravel was found guilty on all 4 counts, they will always try under different subsections of a statute, and they'll also include lesser included. So ultimately, that's why the judge dismissed. If you guys were wondering what that was, they can't sentence him for the same crime under a different statute multiple times. So every case you'll see that. And Allen was convicted similarly of 4 counts there as well. And I think that ultimately Gull will do the same thing. She'll have to dismiss the lesser includeds and sentence him on the 2 straight up murder charges, which carry a heftier sentence. So, but we'll be doing something the next tomorrow. We just haven't figured out what it's going to be yet. I think there was some talk of, I think there's a hearing on the 19th that we're going to want to cover. And I know that Susan Simpson, which is another case that we're following, which seems like the same story again, right? I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's like, I can't with it. It's like, I don't understand it. I just cannot. The human condition is like impossible to wrap your mind around. I just don't understand what goes through people's minds. Now, like, I was in the profession for 20 years and you never get to understanding it. Like, it never makes sense ever. And you think about the kids that are left behind and the family members. Oh God, it's just so much. But so I hope that you guys will hang with us tomorrow. As always, make sure you share, like, and subscribe, and tell your friends, tell your neighbors about the channel. We love having you guys. I think I'm going to do on a kind of a lighter note. Well, definitely on a lighter note. Scout and I recorded a Christmas thing a couple of years ago for the podcast only. I think what I'm going to do tomorrow night, I'm going to do a members only, where we're going to play that. It's only 15 minutes long, but I'm going to see if I can get Scout to sit with me, because she plays a part in it and she was awesome. And it's really great. I'm sure some of you that listen to the podcast have heard it. It's worth your time. It's a letter that Mark Twain penned that was as a proxy for Santa Claus to his daughter when she was very young. And I love it. I think it's great. Then Santa's reading it, so it's worth listening to just for that alone, because Santa Claus was kind enough to read that. But I think that'll help get you in the spirit. It's nice to not talk about death and mayhem and crime all the time. So I think that you guys should keep an eye out. I'll post something in the community notes, and I'll let you guys know what time we're going to do that. That's going to, like I said, that'll be for members only. And we'll do a little behind the scenes with Scarlett and I, which I think will be fun. So, and try to get in the holiday spirit. I know you guys are probably running around doing all the shopping and all the craziness that comes around with the holidays, but hopefully you're taking some time for yourselves. Give all your people hugs every day. Tell them you love them because it's important. All right, y'all. And you guys know that I love you because without you, I'm just an old man. Oh, I almost forgot to thank my mods. Thank you, mods. I say it every time. Like I always feel terrible when I don't thank my mods. Oh, and Meg, I got that $50 Venmo from you on my birthday. I forgot to thank you. I had another person send me $100 Venmo on my birthday. They said not to name them, so I will respect that. But you know who you are. Thank you very much for that incredible generosity. And thank you, Dizzy. Welcome back. If you're still in here, we've missed you so much. And thank you for all the work you did, getting us the background on this case and putting it on the radar so that we could watch some justice get served today. And that's it. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you, mods, for all you do. And see you tomorrow. Later.